Please give a warm welcome to Greg and Danielle.
All right, well, good morning. Thanks for coming out. It's a very exciting time here at the last ShmooCon, sad face. What we wanted to do in this talk, though, was celebrate ShmooCon. So we began with the idea of over a 20-year run, what happened at ShmooCon, right? What research, what talks were presented over 20 years? And we thought we'd gather up that information. We didn't find it in one place. We found it in about 6 different places, had to piece it together, but we found what I would say, air quotes, everything. We built that all out, and then we labeled it, we created a taxonomy that helped categorize everything, and then we have some really cool visualizations which we'll share of what happened and what it looks like. So I'm Greg Conti, this is Danielle. Our inspiration, and you may have seen this, this is an art piece by Rebe Garofalo. It was in Edward Tufte's book, one of his information visualization books. But across the bottom are years, and across the vertical axis is percentage of the market, of record sales. And it shows rock music over time, in which bands, which genres were popular, and you could see the growth. So we looked at that and said, that is cool. What would it look like if we could come up with an approximation of that for ShmooCon? So that's what we did, and we came up with our own personal interpretation of that. Danny, can you hold up just the bag? So we will reveal, we've created an artwork, and we're going to release it at the end online so everyone can download and share it. It's not the same style as this, but we'll explain it. Okay. My background is I taught at West Point for many years, worked at NSA and U.S. Cyber Command. I am a black hat trainer and a DEF CON trainer. Have been coming to ShmooCon since ShmooCon3, and then I work at a cybersecurity research company I helped start. Focuses mainly on training and also some research and consulting. Danny.
Hi guys, I'm Danielle Scalera. I am a first-year master's student at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. I received my bachelor's in science at Marist College, soon to be known as Marist University. I am a part-time security researcher with Copidian, and I helped assist with the Black Hat training in 2022. First-time speaker here at ShmooCon. I'm so happy to be with everyone here today.
All right, so do they still give out Shmoo projectiles to throw at speakers? Oh, yeah. Okay, I would ask that you throw them at me, not at Danny, because this is her first time, okay? And for Danny's fathers in the audience, it's a normal thing that they throw, the audience throws things, so. Okay, so if we think back, right, to the 2005, when dinosaurs roamed DuPont Circle, right? A lot's changed, right? A lot of innovation has occurred since then to the present, right? But what we found when we tried to dig into this, that the data was not available in a single, easily analyzable format. So our job then was to gather all of that, put it in a way that could be shared, and then in return share that data set. So we're going to share everything. We're going to share the code we used to analyze the data. We're going to share the data itself. We're going to share the visualizations, art pieces, et cetera. And we'll release the link at the end of the talk. And the ultimate goal, though, is to celebrate ShmooCon, right? This isn't about us. It's about the 801 talks that have been given. And we were able to roll in this final ShmooCon, so the data includes the talks that were published. So why do this, right? Well, I think it's useful to understand how the hacker community innovates, that by doing this we can find inspiration and new ideas to explore, and ultimately to appreciate the magnitude of what's happened here at ShmooCon. And I think more than that, if done well, it can amplify the impact of hacker community research and increase appreciation for hackers and InfoSec people in society, which is important, right? Who should care? Hackers, non-hackers, and we think the future should care. As we get into this, we have to understand that every conference is different, that each one has a different focus, each one has a variety of things that it's looking for. Those are published in call for papers, right? So that will, the call for papers and the review committee, which changes over time, will shape the conference. But also, technological evolution shapes the conference, maybe a recent data breach or threat actor activities, current events, all of that come together to shape and make each conference unique. So, Danny?
So here I created a timeline of key events and technological advances that have happened for the past 20 years. I'm not going to go over everything, but I just wanted to point out a few that have been recurring themes throughout the years. So in 2004, Facebook was created and Google was made public. 2005, the first ShmooCon was hosted and YouTube came out. And not to make anyone feel old, but I was 4 when the first ShmooCon was hosted. 2007, the iPhone was released, and after the iPhone was released, we saw that there were talks about iPhone security, smartphones in general, and these talks started to come up around 2010. 2008, Bitcoin was invented. 2009, 4G/LTE was invented, and 2010, the United States Cyber Command was founded. Operation Aurora was disclosed, and SnowMageddon hit the United States, and more importantly, SnowMageddon hit ShmooCon6.
Yeah.
So here is ShmooCon when it hit here at, SnowMageddon when it hit ShmooCon. So thank you to Jack Danielle, who provided us with this photo.
Yeah.
Okay. 2014, Google Cardboard was released, and I know there wasn't many talks revolving about VR, but I just thought it was interesting because of how far VR has advanced and how it has been made to the public for people to use since then. And then 2020, So 2020, of course, was the COVID lockdown, as everyone remembers. 2021, ShmooCon was canceled due to COVID. 2022, ChatGPT was released, and it was the first look for the public for AI, and we know how fast AI has been evolving since then. And 2024, SpaceX caught the Falcon 9 booster, and the telecom hack, which is still currently ongoing, happened. And best for last, ShmooCon2025 is here for us today.
All right. Hang on. And I'll ask the question, 2000, you look at this and there were so many opportunities to get rich, you know? Like, oh, Facebook's a fad, this Bitcoin thing's a fad, you know? And now a Bitcoin's $100,000, right? We could have all flown here in our private jets. Okay, so this was the approach we took, and it's kind of a loose outline of our talk. And we're not going to deal too much on the process, and we'll spend more time on the results, but I think the process was interesting. So first off, we built a master list of all the talks, and then we had to put time in to clean up the data and try and get it as accurate as we could. And then we focused on building out a taxonomy, which is like, imagine a tree. It's a categorization of all of the different talks, of the types of research, and we did that. And then closely, we took that taxonomy and then used that to label all of the talks. And from that, we provided analysis. So, and about half the talk will be the visualizations of that analysis.
So to create this project, we wanted to gather all of the ShmooCon talks, which I'll talk about in a second, along with cleaning up all the data that we got and putting it into a master Excel file. This file contained all of the ShmooCon talks out of all of the years of ShmooCon. And one important thing to note is that we didn't add any of the fire talks because we had some years with the fire talks there and some years without, and we didn't want to have just some and not all of them, so we decided not to include all of them.
Yeah, we focused on the main stage talks. Fire talks were a different animal. Okay.
So for this project, I was in charge of data collection, which was gathering all of the talks. To complete this task, we heavily relied on infocondatabase.org, archive.org, and citation.thinkist.com. So a big shout out to those websites and everyone who has maintained them over the years. So with any good project, we ran into errors. There were a lot of great websites that provided us with these talks and even some videos that we were able to watch. Unfortunately, almost all of these websites that we have used had gaps with it each ShmooCon year, leaving us with some missing talks. So we took a triangulation approach and used all these websites that I previously mentioned to gather all of these remaining talks. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all the volunteers who have provided us with these talks, video footage over the past 24 years. So thank you guys for everything that you do.
Yeah. The data would not exist without a lot of volunteers doing really hard work, making sure it was archived, on top of running a really complex event. So the reason why we could do this talk is because of those people.
So what did we find?
Oh, sorry.
We found some really long titles, including from ShmooCon2025, which is Hack the Earth Hemisphere, how we legally broadcasted hacker content to all of North America and beyond using end-of-life geosynchronous satellite. That was a total of 152 characters. We found some edgy titles like from ShmooCon13, can a drunk person authenticate using brainwaves? Hashtag not alcoholics, just researchers. We also found some hard to discern titles like this one from ShmooCon7, defending against targeted attacks using duct tape, popsicle sticks, and Legos.
Like, what is that about, you know? Well, we found out. And we also found just a little bit of Bruce Potter stand-up.
So here is a top 50 words and talk titles out of all of the talks given. Out of all of the talks given, there was a total of 801 talks, from a black hat tools chest, to Zoom 0 day, how to not handle a vulnerability report. To black hat's tool chest, how we tear into that little green man, to Z, Zoom 0 day, how to not handle a vulnerability report.
Yeah, and when I sorted it, there was all sorts of people use special characters and things, but that's just the alphanumeric ones.
And in the future, one could add fire talks and all the speakers for each year of ShmooCon.
Okay, so with that in hand, we then worked on developing the taxonomy and the labeling of the data set. So I don't know if you've dealt with taxonomies before, but think about a tree, right? Different types of dogs, different types of cats. Underneath dogs and cats, there's different subcategories and subcategories. And it's really useful to add that structure because you can use it in a variety of ways to find gaps, to find related work, to just see the overall structure of what's evolving. We're calling it a straw man taxonomy because it is really hard to take 20 years of the hacker community research and create a canonical, highly polished survey, but I think, or taxonomy. But I think what we did is a serious effort that'd be a great starting point for continued evolution if we wanted to go forward with that. We used a bottom-up approach or an emergent approach in that we looked at the talks and used the talks to create the taxonomy and kind of iteratively back and forth. So as a result, we get 100% coverage of all the ShmooCon talks. But if we looked at another conference, say Hope in New York City, which has a great deal of privacy work, right? We had less talks at ShmooCon. So the graph, I think, is compatible. Ultimately, the taxonomy or the graph that we created is compatible with other conferences, but other conferences, based on their uniqueness, would fill that out in different ways. So like this could serve as a starting point for refinement and formal validation and expansion. And as part of this, we did not want to rediscover fire. I thought going in, one, that there would be a list of all the ShmooCon talks in one place, and that was not true. Now there is. I thought that somewhere in academia, somebody put together a taxonomy already of hacker research, and that was not the case either. What we found was Their hacker taxonomies were like 15 years ago, and basically why criminal hackers are evil kind of taxonomies. Let me count the ways, right? So not a lot of help from academia. So we went and looked at things like black hat briefing tracks, InfoSec certification categories, the professional societies, IEEE, ACM, CISSP have structure, they have outlines. Not any one covers it all, but they gave insight. The military had some interesting things, particularly regarding intelligence and electronic warfare. And then in industry, you've got the MITRE ATT&CK framework, you've got the disarm framework for influence operations, and then the one I found that was best was the European Commission Cybersecurity Taxonomy. That was really the best one that we found. So we tried to use those to inform our development.
Okay, so when we were first creating our taxonomy in like the very, very beginning, I was putting hacking as its own category. So I mentioned to Greg what I did, and he pointed out that it's too broad of a category just to label the talks as hacking. So I decided to use a giant notepad in order to gather all of these talks and its hacking subcategories. So when we first started, we were looking at all different hacking conferences as examples to create this hacking domain. For example, as you see at the bottom, it says, why hacking sucks. Does the whole hacking community suck?
That was a talk title at DEF CON, Why Hacking Sucks.
Does this include ethical hacking? What about pen testing? Hacking is just such a universal category that we had to narrow it down into its own subcategories.
Yeah, and how do you create a category? I mean, in academia, right, there isn't a category of why hacking sucks in the taxonomy anywhere, right? So we had to harness, we had to be creative. So we got a bigger piece of paper, and I did some manual cryptanalysis work in the past, and one of the things they taught us is by doing a pencil and paper approach, it gives you this intimacy with the data, right? That you can kind of helps with your code breaking. Well, that's what we did here and this is a big piece of paper. That's 10 years of ShmooCon, and then we ran out of space. Right, and I started on another one, and I thought we're going to need, like in Jaws, we're going to need a bigger boat. We're going to need something bigger. So we switched over after 10 years of kind of just this exploration, and we pivoted over to automated approach. And this idea of building out the categories and subcategories, there were design decisions, right? It's like an art and a science. Do we go with depth or do we go with breadth? We chose a balanced approach. Do we go with the target of a given technique or the technique itself? If there's a military framing and an InfoSec framing, we went with the InfoSec framing typically. With target versus technique, it was context dependent. We tried to go with what made more sense. Terminology evolved over time. Do we use the original terminology of 2008, or do we use current terminology? We lean toward more current terminology. Do we go with a smaller taxonomy or number of categories and be generic, or do we go deep and be precise? And we lean toward precision because things get interesting as you get deeper. And then another decision we made is if a category grew so large, we promoted it to its own like high-level category. For example, hardware reverse engineering, software reverse engineering, systems reverse engineering just grew. Each of those reverse engineering categories just grew big, so we promoted reverse engineering to its own kind of high-level category, which we'll show in a second. So we ended up with, because of the diversity of hacking, the research and the activities here at ShmooCon, we ended up with 45 high-level categories. Part of it was just the diversity of talks, and part of it was just some subcategories initially were so massive that we promoted them. So 45. There are examples of some of the larger categories. Exploitation, which I'll define as hacking of things, was the biggest category. Other big categories were law and policy, defense, detection, intelligence were all big aspects. And part of this, we didn't want to just like make, we wanted to provide some rigor to what we were doing. So we came up with some heuristics or rules of thumb for doing the labeling, right? So we would review the title, and as you saw, titles aren't all that helpful, right? Titles lie, actually. Then we would read the abstract at a minimum. And if we felt that that was enough, we would apply a label. But sometimes it wasn't. We would then go and review the video of the talk or other materials to try and then give an accurate label. And in very rare cases, we had to go out and read news stories because the video wasn't available. We used a rule that said that we applied a label based on 51% of the content. Some talks had multiple categories. If you any Dan Kaminsky talk, if you'll know, he went in like 5 different directions, right? And they were all brilliant and genius level work, but applying a single label, unless the label was Dan Kaminsky, it was a hard thing to do, right? So in cases that we applied, the 51% rule didn't apply, we then moved a level up and kind of created a more general category. And if a sane home for a talk, as we're building it out, remember that iterative, closely linked process, that we would expand the taxonomy with the new idea. And one of the challenges we faced as we were looking, that intent mattered, right? A given talk could be a defense-oriented talk, an exploitation talk, or even just an explainer of a new technology, right? So we had to understand enough of the intent to then put it in the right place. Wanted to give a shout out to all the helpful search engines. I'm sure you've never run into it where you type in exactly what you want and it gives you, did you mean something else that you didn't want? And here's an example. We used Johnny's greatest hits, the best of Johnny Long, ShmooCon2006, and Johnny with a 0, right? And it said, did you mean Johnny Mattis's greatest hits? So shout out to all the search engines out there helping us out. So I thought we'd give you we talked a lot about labeling, wanted to give you a few sample labels, and some of these are my favorite talks too. So, and that's how I didn't lose an eye, emergency data destruction. Any talk involves creating thermite and melting down data center hard drives is a good talk, right? We used physical security, physical infrastructure destruction. iPhone surgery for the practically paranoid. That involves removing like physical sensors from an iPhone. So we went with defense against sensors, disabling sensors. Building absurd Christmas light shows. So this is something that's unique. You're not going to find, a making category in other places, right? But making is a theme here, and every conference, every ShmooCon has some interesting talks. So we went with making Christmas light shows. And my personal favorite title of over 20 years is 35 Years of Cyber War, the Squirrels Are Winning. How do you characterize that? And I'll admit we had some fun with this one, okay? Intelligence analysis, threat actors, squirrels. Right? Seriously though, the talk was like it was calling out the hyperbole surrounding cyber war. So it was a serious talk, but I couldn't resist threat actors, squirrels as threat actors. I'm sorry. So to summarize, we put this all in a spreadsheet, and we're sharing the spreadsheet. 801 labeled talks. The first column is the ShmooCon number. So number 1, this is number 20. The next year was year. The next column was title, and the fourth column is the label, the sequence of labels, right? This, from the root all the way down. So with that, we're proud to unveil the complete taxonomy for your viewing pleasure. Thank you. This is our final slide. We're known for visualizations, so. But again, it was big, and it was too big to fit in a single slide, right? But I'll show you a slightly different view. This is the same thing, but we used GraphViz as a technology. And in GraphViz, there are different ways you can visualize it, different layout algorithms. You're still at the mercy of the layout algorithm, but we put this here not to read anything, but just to show like the depth, right? So you can kind of at a glance see the high-level categories, then the next level, and so forth, and how deep we went in certain areas. Again, just at a glance. These are the 45 high-level categories. And again, the range, there were talks on philosophy. There were talks on incident response and identity and forensics and governance and government and history, and it just goes on and on. And I would love to have combined some of these, but in good faith, it was so. There was a talk on art. There was an art installation talk, right? Like it was amazing what's gone on here at ShmooCon when viewed holistically. Danny?
So the graphs in the previous slide were created using GraphViz, and over the next few slides, I'll explain what GraphViz is, how it works, and why it's so effective. So what is GraphViz? GraphViz is an open source tool used to design and help users create clear and visually appealing graphs of their data. And DOT is a graph descriptive language that is used inside of GraphViz. And one thing to note about DOT is that it doesn't like non-alphanumeric characters in their node names.
Yeah, bad things happen. Yeah.
So here we see an example of the code that we used. And notice how it talks A, B, C. A, B, and C are deception case studies. And also notice how there are 3 links in red that are like connected like that. And then, and also notice how there's, and the one for engineering. And additionally, notice how it says only like engineering in one bubble and then just case, and then it says study and reverse in their own little bubbles. And we just don't want that. We want it all to be in one like node bubble just in general. So let's just fix that. So the first thing we want to fix is all 3 of the see the 3 lines there. We wanted to fix that. So if we put strict in front of graph G, we were able to get rid of all of those extra lines and just have one line there and another line for engineering. So then if we want to make a better graph showing where it's coming from, we put strict digraph in front of G and put little arrows from deception to case study and so on and so forth, just to show where it's coming from and where it's going. So in order to have them, so in order to fix those, those extra bubbles like study and reverse, we decided to remove the space and, keep them as one node name, but we could even make it better than that. So you could also make unique node names like deception case study and reverse engineering case study, but that's just too long, So to do that, to fix that, as you see, we could say, it says deception case and label and deception with all the brackets and quotes. We're able to space it out and even add new lines just to make it cleaner for us to see. And, adding new lines also helps because, you don't want these super long node names just kind of spread out like that. We want to space it out a little bit. So using that, we were able to space it out.
And we wanted to differentiate between a deception case study and a reverse engineering case study. So we had to come up with unique names, and the approach we took was concatenation. That deception became deception case study, and reverse engineering became reverse engineering case study, because each node had to be unique or bad things happen in GraphViz. So what that resulted in was those are just small manual examples, but we went and kind of explored GraphViz and figured out how to coerce it into what we wanted. What we began with is the spreadsheet on the left, and we wrote a parser in Python that then would take a TSV, not CSV, but a tab separated or tab delimited value file, and then it would take that TSV, run it through our parser, and it would output valid GraphViz. And we're going to share that code in case anyone wants to. It would also create statistics. So, and then we've got a few usage examples in case anyone wants to experiment with it. This is the code. We understand you can't see it, but it's 350 lines roughly. and it output valid graph viz. So you see on the right that 801 talks generated somewhere 1,600 plus lines of graph viz. And so we had to do like the small experiments that Danielle was talking about to kind of get the graph viz right. And then we used the tool to push it and pump out big graph viz files. And then, okay, from here, the analysis, which I think things get, like, that was the setup, right? You had to get the data, you had to create a taxonomy, and then label it. Now we've got graphiz that we could then use to see what we've got. So here's an example. This is the community category, and this is the metric I will use, talks per ShmooCon, TPS, 2.3. And you can see, though, that we put a lot of thoughts, there were community advocacy talks, right? How to advocate for this community. There were charities, talks about charities for this community. There were conferences. One of the reasons why this category is relatively big, 46 talks over 20 years, is because ShmooCon made a deliberate effort to engage the community, like Heidi's Own the Con talks, right? And then there were talks about culture, right? We're kind of self-reflecting on it. And there was a talk about international culture in Japan, hacking community, right? So this kind of gives a picture. Then here, another one is education and training. This was about one talk per ShmooCon, 20 talks total. Those are averages, obviously. But an interesting spread, right? I mean, it was really interesting seeing how this expanded and grew over time. There were talks critiquing academia and what they teach about hacking in InfoSec. There were talks about competitions. There were talks about self-improvement, a number of talks, various training initiatives, and how to develop your workforce in a variety of ways, right? And then from there, under say competitions, there were autonomous system talk, kind of a traditional capture the flag talks, steganography talk from this ShmooCon, right? Capture competition. So it was just really fascinating to see it build out over time. And I like this because it shows the value of depth, right? That design decision, if we stop there, that's okay. But it gets really interesting as you go deeper, right? And we could have gone even deeper and like I said, straw man taxonomy. But I do see value in depth. And this one, it's small, but it's because we're kind of pushing the limits of what we can show on a slide. This is detection. Detection, we saw 32 talks on detection at ShmooCon. That was enough for us to give it its own high-level category. And we saw everything from talks on the kind of the data science of detection to let's see, detecting false content, detecting hardware malicious USBs, and the like. Just the sheer spread of creativity is truly amazing. And we'll have the slides out there that you can kind of stare at these a little more because I think it's fascinating stuff. Law. And what's, I think, a differentiator at ShmooCon is that there's really great legal engagement here. 43 talks over the years. And they covered everything from explaining new laws, major court cases, all in the context of technology, right? And kudos to the legal community for remaining so engaged here. And then the biggest category was exploitation. So this just shows the highest level. And again, exploitation is the hacking of the things. Much hacking of things occurred here at ShmooCon, right? From AI and cloud to firmware, hardware, humans, just across the whole spectrum. And just one subcategory, right, in hardware. Well, the hacking of biotech implants, of cameras, of keyboards, of jukeboxes, right? Of pinball machines. It's pretty crazy stuff, right? And it's fascinating as you kind of explore this. Then, cryptography, right? Cryptanalysis, cryptographic algorithms, cryptographic case studies, and implementation, right, were the high level. And I thought the implementation piece was important because there are a good number of talks about how to get cryptography right. And how to do it, because the math is often sound, but it's the implementation that'll get you. And at this point, we started combining it with, well, what were those talks? And we thought, wow, it'd be really interesting to build out a graph year by year to see how it evolved over time. So that's what we did. And we did it with deception. Because it was small, we wanted you to be able to see things on slides, right? So from 2005 to 2009, there were no talks that we categorized as deception. But in 2010, there were, right? There were two. And we didn't just create two generic subcategories. We took it a deep approach, right? So we created a social engineering and subcategory and a deception subcategory, and then further down all the way to the specific TTPs used, and then. You can see over time that, like the next year, there was a talk on deception using Evite. Well, we put that under TTPs. Then there was a high-level talk on deception for the cyber defender. We put that at a high level because it covered a wide range, not any one particular technology or social engineering. This is where the art comes in, right? LastPass, social engineering. AWS honey tokens. Two more on different types of TTPs in 2023. And three more in 2024 on homophone attacks, pig butchering, and canaries. And then 2025, another different type of canary talk. But then we added a new high-level subcategory called deception operations because that, we didn't feel like it was covered in the other areas, right? So it's cool, I think, to see how the graph evolves over time, and also to envision where it'll go in the future, right? With combining conferences to build it out, but then how it will evolve and shape over time as new research comes out. So what were our kind of insights from all this? Thinking about ShmooCon. From the internals of chips to the entire internet to friggin' space, ShmooCon covered it, right? The taxonomy, I thought by year 10, it would converge, right? It would keep growing and growing, but it grew, and I think in really interesting ways, right? I think other hacker conferences are compatible with this, and that there are other approaches that maybe you could create instead of a directional graph, you create a fully connected graph, right? Where everything points to a single reverse engineering node or whatever. Could be, a different way to visualize it. Maybe an ontology is appropriate. So as we move forward, we think that future community research could build this taxonomy, this graph, in amazing ways. Okay, so now for some fun things. This is a bar chart race. And across the top is the years. So you see that's going to slide across. And these are just the largest categories of ShmooCon, cumulative number of talks. So if it works, and this is where you get a blue screen of death typically in a presentation. And with time, thinking back to the timeline, you could think back what major events caused some rapid growth. All right, see that the hacking of things, much hacking. All right, now as we look at this, we have to realize each one of us has a different mental model of how all this interconnects, right? So there are different ways you could do that, organize things, and we acknowledge that. But and if you look too, you can think like one of the charges raised against some security conferences is they're almost entirely focused on offense. Well, here you can see the uniqueness of ShmooCon come out. You see community as a strong one. Defense as a strong one. Law and policy as another major category, because perhaps why it's in DC. Also, intelligence was another major category, right? Because again, because probably some of the roots of the background of people who attend, who speak, are from the intel community. Now, this is the same one, and I understand you can't see it, but I put it in here just so you could see all 45 categories and the distribution of talks over time. Pretty cool, right? So at the beginning, we promised you an art piece, right? And so I collaborated with a friend who's a graphic artist to help put something together. So what this is a visualization of the horizontal axis is the year by year, 20 years of ShmooCon. The vertical axis is the percentage of ShmooCon dedicated to a given subject, right? 45 subjects. Each line shows how many talks were given in that year, right? And we actually got a few printed out. So, and we're releasing the high resolution version of this if you want to print it out yourself. The artist friend was inspired by Tolkien's art. And the idea is that you've got the sea in the front, kind of you hit the beach and then the grasslands, into the mountains, into the snow-capped mountains, and the sky, right? That was the idea with this. And we made a version of it, again, the file's available, that if you want to print it on canvas, right? So it doesn't have the menu at the bottom or the legend at the bottom. It's more designed to be printed on canvas and just shown as an art piece, if you will. So again, these are all out there. Lots of potential for future work. Like I said, you could work to refine and expand the data set, refine and expand the taxonomy, apply it perhaps to other conferences. There are opportunities to automate this, and we thought about AI, right? And today is not the day. Right? It didn't have ShmooCon in there. I mean, maybe in 10 years we can do it with 3 or 4 well-written queries, but today is not the day. But could this be, and again, it would need a sponsoring, a home organization to do this, but at inception, could people self-label their talks? And you can see these graphs grow over time, right? Interesting stuff. So takeaways. A huge freaking thank you to all of ShmooCon and everybody, including people who've come, the people who've made it happen, right? We're living in this crazy golden age of hacking, I'll channel Jason Scott here and all the great work he's done on being an archivist for the community. That we need to document it, right? That we should support these archivists and these archive sites. And also, if you're trying to learn InfoSec, trying to grok all of a hacker conference is a really great educational experience. We both grew a lot through this. Here are some sources. They'll be in the slides. I'm not going to go through them. They're all hyperlinked. And then some other places you can explore further. But if you want to take a picture, that is the link. It's not linked to the menu structure of our site. But if you go there, that'll take you to all the things that we just said, the art, the code, the slides, all that stuff. It's there for download. There's no data harvesting or gatekeeping or anything. All right, so many people to thank. But the archive sites in particular, but also we'd go on websites and there'd be like 0xDade or Christian 008. The reason why some of the ShmooCon talks abstracts existed because those people took time to post them. Right, so thank you to them. Of course, the Potters, Jason Scott already mentioned, and a number of people at Copidian who helped us prep for this, and then Danielle for the Snowmageddon slide. All right, so with that, we've got like a few minutes. If you have any questions, happy to field them. Okay, go ahead. Okay. So the question was, what's the opportunity for topic modeling? Sure. I mean, we put it out there, and I think there's opportunities for people to explore that, right? Like, it's there. We put it out where hopefully people will take it and bend it and use it in interesting ways. Okay. Yes.
I turned it on. I hope so.
So we did not put in speaker names. Oh, yeah, the question was, did we explore speaker names? And please, I have a tendency not to repeat questions, so it's totally fair to tell me to. We did not include speaker names, basically because this project was 10 times bigger than we thought, because we had to find the talks, we had to create the taxonomy, and then do the labeling and the visualization, right? So I think the data set could be expanded with with speakers, which would be really, really interesting to track over time.
Thank you. Other side.
Go ahead, yeah.
So, a quick question, then maybe a slightly harder one. First, is the graph, I assume it's acyclic. Is it also a tree graph?
It's a tree. It's directional. It's a tree. Yep. Starts with the root node of ShmooCon and goes all the way down to the individual leaf nodes.
Okay, so
the question was, how was the graph structured? Okay, go ahead.
Second, when you looked at the data, what did you see kind of characteristically over time? Was it like kind of topical for the time, and so the talks were always about what was happening at that time? Was it progressive, and so you saw things where we investigated and then we started to learn about it, then we attacked it, then we defended it? Or was it cyclic, where we learned something, then we did it, then we forgot about it for 5 years, and then we came back to it?
Yeah, so the question was, what patterns did we, I think I'll paraphrase and say, what patterns did we see in the data, right? So Danny, you were seeing iPhone would come out and
there was some patterns with every, that's why I added the timeline, with everything that was added and invented. I saw sometimes there was talks about just in general, just things that people have started to use. People started talking about them.
Would hack them. There was a cause and effect in that exploitation category, absolutely. New technology comes out, there'd often be an explainer, like a general purpose explainer talk, and then a number of people kind of pushing that technology in ways the designers didn't intend. One of the biggest ripples in the force was Mudge taking over Cyber Fast Track, because he funded a lot of cool hacker community research that resulted in some great talks. So he single-handedly kind of moved the timeline, if you will. Okay, next question, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is, did you see topics on the reverse side drop off? Were there any topics that were initially, there were definitely talks in 2005, or early years, and then just disappeared from then on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There was talks, and there's new things that come around every year. So if something new comes up, there's always new problems to solve. So there was just people just evolving with time, thinking about new things to speak about.
Yeah, so there were certain technologies that I guess became less interesting. I don't have a good example off the top of my head right now, but it would appear, it'd be explored for a year or two or three, and then it would fall off, right? Either because it became less interesting, or maybe it was addressed better. There was spam detection or something like that. Once we upped the bar in detecting spam, then there were less talks needed to be. It needed less new work to push the boundary forward if we kind of had a solution in place that was good enough. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Colonel Conti, Mudge here. First off, thank you very much.
Oh, hey.
Thank you
I
very
didn't know
much.
you were in the audience, man.
Yeah, thank you very much for the kind compliments. I have a cadet, or who used to be a cadet, while you were at West Point, you might remember as Ed, and we would like to come up and present you with something.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, that was Mudge.
Oh, okay.
So, Mudge, I heard part of that.
He was just thanking me.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm not I don't know if this is on. I'm not actually interrupting. I want to come up here and comment because this is fascinating to me. Is that better? I can take
well,
mine.
we're going to,
Oh, well, hang on.
we're going to,
Oh, okay. It's just fascinating to me because what you're seeing on the screen. Oh, are you presenting something? Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hang on. We couldn't hear you up here, so we didn't actually hear what you said. Okay. I did not mean to interrupt. Come up here and do that.
Okay, Colonel Conti, if you would stand, please.
Well, I'll talk later.
okay.
We couldn't hear anything you said, so we thought you were just
Cadet,
saying
No, you're good.
hi.
Cadet Ed, if you would open the first
But you should use
bag.
the-
Yep.
Come here, use the
Oh, yeah.
microphone.
Some people in the audience might recognize something like this. If you would be so kind, Cadet Ed.
Is it handcuffs?
Then first layer is open. Mudge, do the honors. Layer 2, please.
There's protocol. I'm looking at which people get nervous when we're doing this up on stage because that's a giveaway. Oh yeah. These aren't designed to be opened quickly. I apologize.
Is it okay if we get a picture of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Buddy, if you want to.
Nope. Oh. And hold up the other bag. Yeah. You recognize these, Dean.
Oh, Eli, can you get pictures?
Here we go.
Okay. Hey,
Thank you, Greg, for everything you've done on both sides of the green door. And thank you for inspiring me, and hopefully vice versa. We appreciate your years of service, be it silent or public.
All right, thank you.
And I got a
I'd
free
like to thank
microphone.
Danny for coming up here, letting me trick her to get on stage here at ShmooCon. So this was, I don't know if you captured what the interpretation of what this is. So we printed one out, wanted to give you one. So, all right, sure.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing.
So all I was going to say before, I'm so sorry, Mudge. We couldn't hear you up here. It's really interesting to see this because what this actually sort of represents is the corpus. It's the accepted talks, right? Yeah. So that is completely and utterly sort of biased on, and a couple others, right? So it's there is part of that. That is part of that, right? Yeah, sure. And so it'd be a whole lot of work, but it'd be super interesting to, like, if all the data was there, to actually look at what the submitted work was overall, because that would, I think, give even more interesting trend data, because you saw the exploit line was like really huge, and that does tend to be because our break-it category is always the most popular category, and I think the community influences, like the ShmooCon bias comes into that a lot. So I just think it's fascinating, and I'm really, really happy to see this. It's just amazing. Thank you so much.
All right. So, Danny, did you have anything you wanted to wrap with?
Hi, guys. I was just wanting to say that I am looking for a full-time position for an entry-level position. So if anyone has any leads for the New York, New Jersey area, you could talk to me outside in the hallway. And thank you so much for letting us speak today.
All right. Thank you. Cheers.